My name is Derek Logue, and I'm a registered sex offender. In 2000, I was convicted of a sex crime in the state of Alabama. I served 3 years and got out, and I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio. When I came to Cincinnati, Ohio, I was considered a sexually oriented offender by the Sheriff's Department of the county that I moved into. And for 2 years, I lived as a sexually oriented offender. For the last 2 years, I've lived in the same apartment. It's actually more of a sleeping room than an apartment. And went to work every day and just tried to live a normal life and try to rehabilitate and all that stuff. Anyways, last year, the Sheriff's Department reclassified me as sexual predator because I came from a state that makes everybody register for life. So, in other words, I was reclassified not for anything that I did, but because of a procedural snafu. And to make matters worse, Ohio had passed a residency law for barring all sex offenders for living within 1,000 feet of a school. Well, I had actually moved into this apartment after the law had taken effect, and the Sheriff's Department had checked it out and told me that this apartment met their residency requirements, only to have the city solicitor's office counter what the sheriff's office said and pass an order of judgment to try to move me out of my apartment. So for the last year, I've been fighting it in court. Unfortunately for me, I lost my initial case, and I have 30 days to move out of the apartment that I reside in. And I'm also fighting my sexual predator designation. That has gone through the appeals court. Hopefully, I can take this issue to the appeals court on the 1,000-foot proximity law, and that's going to be sort of the purpose of this video, to show exactly what I have to go through as a sex offender and to show you how the laws affect me personally. I wanted to begin by showing you the actual apartment in question. Like I said, it's more of a sleeping room. It's not exactly in the best part of town. The walls are kind of falling apart. I live in the hood, across the street from a former pawn shop. You can see that my walls are starting to fall apart. Even my window is broken now, so I have to hold it up with cardboard and plastic right now. So you see, with it being a sleeping room, it was pretty much an empty room when I moved into it. I have to use a second floor bathroom downstairs. I live on the 3rd floor. You can see, I don't have much, but it's home to me. And to be honest with you, I hate the place, but when I say it's cheap, and I don't pay much rent. I pay $150 a month. So I can't afford much more than that on my Social Security SSI. Well, I say, I have 30 days to move out of here. Well, I'm going to edit it anyways. I got editing software now. But anyways, I just got out of the mayor's office, and 5 minutes isn't a very long time. Took the time to make a little fact sheet here, talking about my case and everything. And basically, I think that the idea of making housing available for sex offenders in certain prescribed zones might benefit both society and the sex offender in rehabilitation efforts, and try to make society safer at the same time. From what I can see, homelessness and instability in life is a key factor of recidivism. Even though recidivism rates are relatively low, I definitely don't want to see any more victims by making the problems worse by forcing people out on the streets and not being able to know where they're at and not being able to monitor them. It definitely defeats the purpose of making this law, and hopefully the mayor will want my argument and maybe something good will come out of it.
Okay, I've had a busy week, and during this week I had to do my 90-day registration, and seeing as how I wasn't here when they came to check and verify my residence. I'm going to have to give them a call, and I guess they're going to have to come back and pay me a visit. So let's go ahead and give them a call real quick.
County Sheriff's Office, I can help you.
Yeah, I got one of those little yellow notices. I guess they came to check my, verify my residence, you know, for the 90-day thing.
Right.
And of course, I'm never here when they do it, so.
Okay. Who was the officer that came out? Does it say?
Timing.
Okay. He is not here right now. Do you want to just try to schedule a time where he can come out and meet you?
Yes, because I don't have any paperwork to verify it. He's actually going to have to, I guess, see me come out of my apartment or something.
All right. What's your name?
Derek Logue. Last name is spelled L-O-G-U-E.
Okay. And do you have a phone number?
Yes.
What's your phone number?
238-2873.
Okay. And let's see. Do you have the case number? On the yellow card?
SOR 25874.
All right. I'll let Officer Keeman know. I'll leave this message for him to call you, okay?
All right.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
All right. Now I get to hang around all day and wait on him. Isn't that wonderful? As if I don't have anything else better to do with my life. All right. This is the building I live in. Obviously, there's where I enter the door, come out, live on the top floor of this building. The reason why they want me to move is, if you could see, if I could zoom in here, about a block from here is a place called the Life Skills Center where people go to get GEDs and stuff. But I guess since they cater to both teenagers and adults, that it counts as a school. And as you see, it's the length of a city block from there to here. It's not really a long distance, I suppose, but I don't really know how far away it is. I haven't actually measured it myself. But anyways, I'm standing out here waiting on the officer to come verify my address. Yeah, here, this is real fun. Get to stand out here and sign this paper now, right? Got it. Yeah. Let's see, I get to sign one of these things, just verifying where I live. I'll sign it and date it. Do it every 90 days. What is today? 18th? The 18th. All right. 9/18/06. Signed back, good for another 90 days. I'm shooting a documentary.
Okay.
About everything I have to do as a sex offender and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I'm showing about. I guess because my background, people think I don't even deserve to get things fixed up when things in my little sleeping room go bad. That's okay though. But unfortunately, I'm getting ready to move out. So I've taken the liberty of starting to pack up all my belongings now, just in case I lose my court case next week. I'm certainly not willing to take any chances. So hopefully my friend this weekend will take me down to Alabama. So this is what I'm spending my weekend doing just before my court is scheduled for next Friday. Well, I tell you what, everything's just gone from bad to worse. Not only did I lose my case today, as you see, I got the paperwork in just now. I just got this notice that the city of Cincinnati building inspector was here today, and according to them, this building is a fire hazard, so I must vacate by tomorrow night. And if I don't, I might be cited for staying here. Isn't that wonderful? Things just can't get any worse now, can they? So, where the hell do they honestly expect me to move all this stuff any damn ways? I mean, hell, I was planning on moving out anyways. don't know what to do right now. I say, you know, everything just gets worse and worse, you know. I wonder if it's even worth it to even try to live by society's rules. Well, this is it. I've been here for over 2 years. I found me another apartment to go to. It was going to cost me a lot more than what I paid for here. I paid $150 here. Where I'm going to is going to cost me $395 a month, 1 bedroom. So my mother is going to move in with me and help split the expenses so I can at least be able to live off of the $600 a month that I get. Now, you know, don't get me wrong, you know, I kind of hated my apartment, but it just seems so empty now. I mean, there's, you know, this is it. After all this time, I've been here for about 2.5 years now. And, you know, as much as I hated this room, it has a lot of memories to it. I guess anytime you move, you know, you always think about, you know, the things that you did while you was here. I mean, you know, I had girlfriends here. I had somebody live with me for a while. You know, memories and stuff like that. But there's all things, eventually it's time to move on. The state forced me out, but you know what? It doesn't really matter because the building got condemned. So I qualify for moving assistance. So at least that's going to help me out a little bit. I lost my initial case with the courts, put it on appeal. I filed a stay of execution. You know, not that it really matters because I can't come back and live here till they fix the place back up, and that's probably going to take a while. But that's about the best I can do. Yeah, I ain't gonna miss this place. You know what I told him when I got out? I told him that I said, I hope I never see you guys again. Yeah, small town Alabama.
Well,
I don't miss it one bit.
Do you have to report in anymore?
Well, no, not unless I have to stay here any longer. I'll tell you basically what they did was I had to go in there and register as if I never registered before. They just did a temporary thing. They said I don't know if they're going to have to do any notification flyers or not. Because hell, they said like, what's the point? I'm going to be gone in 2 more weeks anyways. They said just let them know if I'm staying longer, or you know, if I stay longer than the first. There's no reason hell I should be here longer than the first. You know. Yeah. Like, I'm leaving out that morning, but anyway, I had to go get fingerprinted and get the stuff all over my hands, and that's the reason why it took so long, because I'd go over there and get my fingerprint, and then come back, and then you know, I got all the rest of the information, and she took my picture and everything. So, you know, but it's just that everything's slower because they do everything by hand. Small towns can't afford them big computers, apparently.
Really?
But that was basically it. It's no big deal. I'm good for the next 2 weeks. They made me give me one of these little cards they just filled out, you know, said that I registered or whatever, and then gave me a copy of my registration form that I filled out. That's basically it. So now we can go out and enjoy the rest of our day. Well, we spent the last month and a half here. But now we're ready to go back to Cincinnati. Well, not really ready to go back. We kind of have to. I missed all the festivities. Now I'm packed up yesterday. Anyway, we should be heading back to Cincinnati. We should be there tonight. Ooh, not my best picture, but they'll know it's me. Got about an 8-hour drive ahead of us. Girlfriend, she's going to drop me off. My brother's going to take me up there. Said where she's been staying at. He's been good to her, let her stay here for the last 2 years, but now she's going to try to help me out because I can't afford to pay the expenses myself on my new apartment because it's like $400 a month, and still got to pay utilities and other bills and stuff, and I only make $600 a month. So we're kind of doing it out of necessity, basically. But I gotta do something, you know.
I'm not leaving. There's no way in hell I'm leaving.
This is a very interesting development here. Well, I knew that Catherine was going to come up to watch Christina's kids while they take us to Cincinnati, but there's a couple of people in there that came in with Catherine that I think might be the victim in my case. My brother looked out the door here for a minute. I mean, we got the stuff sitting out there. We got it packed and got it ready to go. But he's, you know, they're supposed to be out here rearranging the stuff so we can have it all packed up nice and neat to get up to Cincinnati. But I don't know who those two females were that went in there with Christina's mother. But according to Alabama law, I'm not supposed to be within 100 feet here. And
we did not know that she was here or coming here before we got here.
Right. And that, like I said, I don't know what the hell. We're worried that it's a setup, so that's the reason why.
We don't know what the situation is.
Yeah. But fortunately, I have Brandy here with me. I'm just gonna have to wait and see. But I'm sitting out here in the car. Did you know? We are gonna, because of the law.
Bumpy road.
Right. Well, because of the law, we're going to. 100 feet isn't very long of a distance, but we're going to park at this church right here in this parking lot to this church nearby until Bear and Mom and stuff are ready to go. And they're just going to have to finish packing on their own setup and what they're going to set up, because I am not going to jeopardize my freedom because right there, sweetheart, looking dead at it. Yeah. I said it's not very far, but it's well more than 100 feet. But it's better to be safe than sorry. Because
Well,
we made it.
we made it, Tina.
Yes, we are there now. See, we are in Cincinnati.
Whoa.
Can't really see too much on my camera at night, but we made it here nonetheless. See, downtown Riverfront, Cincinnati, 2 miles. Well, this apartment's starting to look more like a regular home now.
Yeah, it takes a little bit. All I'm going to do is, let me get that out of the way.
Yeah, go ahead. I say now we're starting to still need some furniture, but starting to look more like a home than the way I had it when I first moved in a few days ago, you know. Got everything nice and set up now. Still everything, most of my stuff's on the floor, but you know. I'll go today and get my case manager and see what I can do by getting some furniture and stuff. Well, here's the latest thing now. I'm at City Hall. They're doing a presentation today on imposing even more restrictions on sex offenders, and you can see now I'm in the chambers of City Hall now, and soon I hope to be able to make a presentation. Obviously I'm opposed to it for obvious reasons, and I would like to hopefully would have the opportunity to say my piece and present not only my story but maybe some facts that some other people may not present before the City Hall. So it just remains to be seen how effective this is going to be. You know, maybe it's just spitting in the wind, but you know, I've got to try to do something. So I can't just sit idly by and let them continue to mess me over.
Item number 2 is the residency prohibition against sexual offenders. We're going to hold that item. However, we're going to listen to all of the speakers that are currently here on the item. The item is going to be held for 1 week for reasons that are legal in nature. But we are going to give everybody an opportunity to be heard today, so that when we put it on at our next meeting, we can just put it on for passage or whatever the case may be.
I think this law may very well be unconstitutional, and the city will be facing litigation as a result of it. But putting that aside, if you want to protect children, do a study. Do a study to figure out what is the most effective way to use our resources to make sure that our children aren't vulnerable and victimized by sexual offenders? Do a study that looks at the impact of what you've proposed here, because once you set this in motion, there may not be a way to get it.
Me, on the other hand, I'm a registered sex offender, but in the 4 years since I've been out of the penitentiary, I have not committed a single crime. I have not been even accused of any improprieties. I've done my registration duties. I was forced to move in the past year from a residence that I had lived for 2 years and caused no problems. Nobody gave me any grief. I gave nobody else every grief. I went to work every day, went home. Went to work every day, went home. Boring life. All of a sudden, out of the blue one day, they come out and tell me I have to move because of the law again. And I don't want to have to move again. It took me over a year. I called 131 places, and I did a research paper that I plan on presenting on this subject. And out of 131, I only found 3 that met the criteria under Ohio's current laws. It took me over a year to find a place I can ill afford where I live at now on my limited income. And the thing about it is, you know, people, you know, I can understand people's anger when it comes to, like, you know, if somebody got raped and killed, or in my girlfriend's case, you know, it's a lot different issue. But a lot of people who, like me, just got hooked up with somebody at the wrong place at the wrong time, you know, and didn't check their ID beforehand, get skinned up over this stuff. You know, they meet the same standards. I mean, I'm considered a sexual predator, but you know, the thing about it is that I can present all the evidence, I can present research studies and all that, but you know what? I want people to see a real person that this is affecting, because I went through hell this past year just trying to find a place to live. You guys don't know what it's like. I mean, it's hard enough trying to get somebody to even give you a chance. I mean, once you tell them what you are, they don't want to give you a job, they don't want to give you a place to stay. And you know what? My concern is that there's going to be 3 things that's going to end up happening to me if this thing gets passed. I'm either going to just say to hell with it and go underground, or I can just be homeless and check in every day. But you know what? Either way, you're not going to know where I'm at night. And you know, nobody has told me, what does where I sleep at night have to do with what I do during the daytime? I mean, this is what trips me out about the law, is that you won't let me sleep 1,000 feet from a school, but if I wanted to, which I don't, but if I wanted to, I could stand across the street from it all day long, and it's legal. You know, what purpose in deciding where I live really makes an impact in anybody's life? That's what I would like to know. And
offenders can live within the city.
That ordinance would keep sex offenders from living within 1,000 feet of not only a school, but also any city park, recreation center, or pool. Shannon Kepler is live outside City Hall, where that proposal is already facing strong criticism. Shannon?
Well, City Council member Chris Monzel introduced the proposal before the Law and Public Safety Committee today. He says this will be added safety protection for children. However, some critics worry that this may keep sex offenders from registering their addresses, making their whereabouts unknown. You don't have to go far in the city to find a location where children gather, from city parks to rec centers to places like the Boys and Girls Club or the Y. A new proposal expands the current law to keep sex offenders from living within 1,000 feet of a school.
A mother from one of our neighborhoods in Hartwell went to her city-funded Cincy recreation pool this past summer, where all her kids were at swimming, and there was a registered sex offender using the facility, using the pools with her children. And she said, why can this happen?
The proposal, however, is drawing some criticism.
It can be catastrophic.
David Singleton is an attorney with the Ohio Justice and Policy Center and says more research needs to be done.
If you destabilize folks and make it very difficult for them to find a place to live, what you're going to do, the experts say, is increase the risk that they're going to recidivate, not reduce it.
Today, the Law and Public Safety Committee heard public comment on the issue. Several parents spoke out in support. But one sex offender told the committee the lack of housing could cause offenders to quit.
I possibly do serve my time. I got out. I haven't gotten a single bit of trouble since, you know.
Now, Monzel says they have not yet looked at the mapping of the city to see what kind of impact that they would have on certain communities. They'll look at the issue again in 2 weeks. Clyde?
Tightening the restraints on sex offenders, you wanted to know about a new city ordinance that would keep them even farther away from your children. News 5's Brian Hamrick is live downtown with details on today's public hearing for your number 5 pick. Brian?
Well, this is a hot-button issue, sex offenders in the city, and now there's a proposed new ordinance and a public public hearing today to address all of this. There are the places that attract kids, from parks to pools. Concerns are they're the same places that also attract sex offenders.
Our children are the most vulnerable ones in our society, and they deserve the most protection.
Councilman Chris Monzel is proposing a new ordinance that would ban sex offenders from living within 1,000 feet of places kids congregate, playgrounds, rec centers, even YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs. There's been no shortage of support. Several even showed up at this public hearing to make sure their voices are heard.
We want to see all these areas extended where sexual offenders, when they come in, they don't have access to our children.
The ordinance could become a model for other cities if it passes and holds up to legal challenges. Now, we heard from those in support of this ordinance. You might be surprised there were almost as many who spoke out against it. We'll have more on that coming up at 5:30. Reporting live.
Keeping sex offenders away from your kids. Tonight, both sides are arguing over a proposed new ordinance for Cincinnati, and you might be surprised by who's against it. And tonight, News 5's Brian Hemrick is live with more details. Brian?
Well, it's a proposed ordinance to limit where sex offenders can live. This is the ordinance, and today here at City Hall, lots of people came to speak out in favor of this ordinance. What might surprise you is so did those who came out to speak against it. On this website, sex offenders' homes show up as red dots. In Cincinnati, the red dots are a red-hot issue.
This is going to be a catastrophe for Cincinnati.
Several came to this city law committee to speak in support of a new ordinance that would ban sex offenders from living within 1,000 feet of Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, rec centers, daycares, parks. The idea is to keep offenders from living anywhere that kids congregate. Who would argue with that?
First and foremost, I am a registered sex offender.
Derek Logue, he is a sex offender and says ordinances like this only harass offenders but do nothing to protect people. He's already been forced to move.
I don't see how forcing me to move again is going to benefit society.
And he's not alone. This representative of Volunteers of America says it could make sex offenders even less likely to register. And there's another reason.
I think this law may very well be unconstitutional, and the city will be facing litigation as a result of it.
It looks like the ordinance will pass. The bigger question is, will it hold up in court? The ordinance is expected to pass in about 2 weeks. Now, this isn't the only ordinance to target sex offenders. There's another one already on the drawing board that will limit the number of sex offenders allowed in one apartment building. Reporting live downtown, Brian Hemrick, News 5, where the news comes first.
And this is just a glimpse into the effect that this new ordinance could have on the tri-state. In Hamilton County alone, there are more than 1,200 registered sex offenders.
Well, you can now add Cincinnati to the growing list of cities debating where a sex offender should be able to live.
Tonight, a proposed law is being considered that would ban offenders from living within 1,000 feet of things like public pools and the YMCA. Fox 19's Chris Shaw is live with the details of this. Chris?
And Tricia, this would leave very few places in the entire city of Cincinnati where a sex offender could live. And for a lot of people, that is exactly the point. But this will put Cincinnati in the middle of a nationwide debate. The question, do laws like these actually protect children?
No.
It is hard to argue with Councilman Chris Monzel's hope, because I think this would be a great Christmas present for our children in our city. To say to them that we want to protect you no matter what, and we will go to that length to make sure that we fight for the survival of our future citizens. The length he's talking about is 1,000 feet. Monzel's proposal would ban sex offenders from living that close to not only schools, which is the current law, but also to daycares, the YMCA, Boys and Girls Clubs, public parks, rec centers, and pools. Laws like this are based on the theory an offender will re-offend. Opponents call that a myth. Department of Justice numbers show only 5% of offenders are re-arrested for a sex crime. But supporters look at that same stat and point out even at 5%, a sex offender is 4 times more likely than anyone else to be arrested for a new sex crime. Derek Logue, who says he's turned his life around after a conviction, went to City Council today to put a face to those numbers.
You won't let me sleep 1,000 feet from a school, but if I wanted to, which I don't, but if I wanted to, I could stand across the street from it all day long.
It's a point made in both the state of Colorado and a state of Minnesota study. Their stats showed residence location had nothing to do with recidivism. But supporters of laws like this say even if there's a small chance it could protect a child, we should take it.
I strongly implore you to pass this and any other laws to protect and secure the safety of our children. no matter where they live, play, or be schooled.
And most of the people who spoke in today's open forum agreed with that woman. The Law and Public Safety Committee will take 2 weeks to decide on this. They will vote on it, and it is expected to pass. Reporting live tonight, Chris Shaw, Fox 19 News.
Thanks, Chris.
This crime did not involve a child. The state of California does not consider him a predator, but they require lifetime registration. Ohio doesn't look at the crime, they look at the punishment. And as long as they're required to register for life, then Ohio sees it that way, and Ohio sees that anybody that's required to register for life has to follow the predator laws.
That's what they did to me.
He's paying every day for something that happened a long time ago that we have fought very hard to put behind us. We're taking other steps to have his name cleared in the state of California.
Natty, I am here to respectfully ask that the council and this committee reconsider this ordinance with respect to nursing home residents. We do have some registered sexual offenders who are non-threatening, disabled, elderly, living in nursing homes that would be not denied the health care they are receiving if this ordinance were to go into effect.
No, the other day, one of your city councilmen wrote an article in the paper kind of referring to me, asked me why am I in Cincinnati. Well, to answer your question, Mr. Monzel, the reason why I'm here in Cincinnati is because somebody in this town decided to give me a second chance. And you know, I haven't done them wrong yet. In 4 years, I have not committed a sex offense. You know, like the other 95% of the sex offenders that have not reoffended in 4 years have not been convicted, rearrested, or even questioned in connection with any crime, even so much as a traffic ticket. And my label may define who I am maybe in the eyes of a few people, but it doesn't define who I am right now. Because I'm a different person than I used to be. And people believe that there are some people that believe that people can change and have a second chance. And one more thing I still like to know is nobody has answered the question, where do you guys offered us a place to live? Nobody's offered any kind of clear-cut alternative. A lot of people that have passed laws have not given any answers, leaving us to try to find these answers for ourselves, and we could not do it.
Restricting where people can live, I feel like that's just going to drive a lot of sex offenders just basically underground. They're going to stop reporting, and they're going to stop complying with the registration requirements and everything because they're simply just, as the young man was just saying.
The possible negative outcome, the negatives that could come out of this, without a clear guarantee that we're going to improve things for children, is not worth. The suggestion has been made that we do a thorough analysis and a thorough study of this. We don't need to start over from the very beginning. A lot of work has already been done, but I do believe that there can well be unintended consequences, some of which we heard about today, based on the state law, that were never considered when the law was originally passed.
Hey, in the past couple of months, I've managed to make my room look like somebody actually lives here now. I made some furniture, I have a bed, and I finally have a place to put my clothing and stuff. And you can see I've kind of gotten pretty well settled in by this point. And today I'm working on my speech that I just printed out, that I'm going to take to City Hall with me in a little while and prepare yet another speech, because today the City Council is going to vote on whether or not to pass the sex offender residency restriction ordinances. This will be my third time going now, and as you can see, I've gotten pretty well settled in, so I'm not going to move without a fight. And I guarantee them that there will be a fight if they do.
We had always dreamed of one day owning our own home. Because of the state's restrictions, we were forced to find a house before we were financially ready. Little did we know how difficult it would be to find a house in our price range that was more than 1/5 of a mile from school. After several disappointments, we settled for a house that met the state imposed requirement, but it needs a lot of work, and it just happens to be close to a recreation center. In the year plus that we've lived there, it has become not just a house, but also our home. Now, if this ordinance is passed, you're telling us that we have to start over again.
It saddens me to think that even in our modern society, people are so willing to experiment with living, breathing human beings in the name of public safety and social progress. One of Adolf Hitler's favorite programs in his campaign of racial cleansing outside the extermination of the Jews was the so-called re-education of sexual offenders and deviants. Re-education was a euphemism for state-endorsed imprisonment in concentration camps, slave labor, castration, surgical human experimentation. The U.S. sent my ancestors on a trail of tears in the name of manifest destiny and progress. Much of our nation's early prosperity came at the expense of slaves. Once the slaves were freed, nearly a century passed before they were even allowed to share a water fountain or the same bus seat with the rest of society. And during World War II, Roosevelt signed an order sending Japanese Americans to so-called internment camps, American concentration camps where many people died because our society feared all Japanese were spies. It's far easier to discriminate against a human being when society succeeds in viewing the person as less than human. Hitler used the ministry of propaganda to indoctrinate even German youth to hate those Hitler viewed as inferior and detrimental to the very good society. And one of his first acts was to prey upon the fear of society concerning post-World War I Berlin becoming a mecca for sexual deviance. Even sadder, this sentiment has been echoed in the halls of this council room. As Cecil Thomas said, we should not have that many sex offenders living in Cincinnati. At times it seems less like protecting children as it is discouraging individuals who have served their time but are labeled undesirable to live in Cincinnati. All the while, murders have reached an all-time high. Our football team has the highest arrest rate in the NFL, and crime is spreading to the suburbs. And even saddest of all, you're willing to compare this law with a marijuana ordinance? Comparing criminal activity that is currently taking place with an ordinance, not an act related to criminal activity. Basically, the basic human need for shelter defies sound logic. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to walk everyone through the different ordinances that have been drafted to explain what we have before us with 38B. And the purpose of this ordinance is to enhance the state requirement that you cannot reside within 1,000 feet of a school. And what we're doing as a city, we're adding that to daycare centers, state licensed daycare centers, YMCAs, YWCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, any public recreation center, public swimming pool as owned by the city of Cincinnati. And when this was drafted and talked about over the past few months, there's been a lot of issues of unintended consequences of what this will do. And with that, we've made a few changes. The first one was removing the parks, the city parks, from the ordinance. Mount Airy Forest is over 143 acres and encompasses a great deal of land in the city of Cincinnati. And per advice from our solicitor's office, suggested by removing the parks, it'd give us more of an airtight case if there's any challenge in court. The next change has been the addition of Section 2, which is basically a retroactive clause that says any sex offender who has, prior to this effective date of the ordinance, established a residential premise within this prohibited area per the terms of this ordinance shall be exempted from the operation of this provision until such time that he or she changes the location of his or her residential premises, at which time he or she shall be subject to the terms and prohibitions contained in this ordinance. So therefore, if an individual is living in this certain section, they would not have to be forced to move, but however, if they ever did move, they would not be allowed to move back in this area. So it kind of adds a protection to these extra areas within the city of Cincinnati. And actually another addition was Section 3, which states that the ordinance shall not go into effect until March 11th, which is 60 days from today.
Mr. President, even with Mr. Monzell's efforts to modify his proposal to soften it somewhat, I appreciate that effort. I appreciate his concern for the children of the city. I myself have 4 to 6 grandchildren, all concerned about that. But I think we also have to be concerned about people who are trying to correct their lives, get their lives back together, and give them some consideration too. So, Mr. President, I will I will have to vote against this today, and I would hope that my colleagues would follow suit. Thank you, Mr. President.
I think we've certainly had their testimony. And let me say that I don't hear Mr. Monzel asserting that there's something magical about 1,000 feet. What I hear Mr. Monzel saying is that Cincinnati has more sex offenders per capita than the other city in Ohio, and we're trying to put in place a policy to limit that to some degree.
But I'm still concerned, even though I support what he's doing, I'm concerned that this is not going to have the kind of effect that we expect it to have, simply because the laws are still in place that makes Hamilton County a dumping ground for a number of individuals from other areas of the state.
Mr. Crowley's comment makes an assumption that there'll be no further action of the council or of the legislature by March the 11th, and I certainly think it's reasonable to expect that Mr. Monzel's commitment, the mayor's commitment on the task force, that we may have additional action. And at this point, people are moving into the city as is with only the existing restrictions. There's a higher level of restriction with this policy. We proceed today, have more work to do. Thank you.
First reading.
Orders for ordaining new chapter 763, residency prohibitions against sexual offenders.
Questions on suspension?
Schwartz.
Yes.
Cole. Yes. Manley.
Yes.
Crowley.
Yes.
Gibbs. Yes. Monzel.
Yes.
Cardell.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Burton.
Yes.
Question now is on passage.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Cole. Yes. Manley.
Yes.
Crowley.
No.
Gibbs. Yes. Monzel.
Yes.
Cardell.
No.
Thomas.
Yes.
Burton.
Yes.
The item has been approved. Is there any further legislative business to come before us
Just got
today?
home from the meeting. As you can see, Cincinnati Council passed the ordinance, but I guess if it's any small consolation to me, which it really isn't, then that they passed a grandfather clause, meaning that seeing as how I already live here, they're going to be nice enough not to go after me as far as where I live at. Of course, it's not really just about me. It's about what's doing the right thing and giving people a second chance. It's not about whether or not I have a place to live or not, because I guess my standards are, I think beyond just myself, and to me it's more than just an issue of where I'm going to rest my head at night. It's a question where the next person is going to rest his head at night. And that's what I keep trying to tell these people. I'm like, where are we supposed to go? They still haven't answered the question. It bothers me that they've given such little true thought to it. It really has. But I'm just going to keep on fighting and keep on pushing the issue, even if it means I have to do it from the sidelines, because it doesn't look like I'm going to get to fight them directly, at least for the moment.